there's no sense of amateur anymore in college basketball, and I want to walk through the situation of NBA guys playing in college basketball, international professional players playing in college basketball, and what the sport can really do to fix this. So now the official rules from the NCAA says that players can retain an amateur status if they're 5 years or less removed from high school graduation, and they didn't enter the NBA draft. But the big issue here is that James Nagy was drafted in 2023, played in the G League, and then actually went back to college basketball. So there's a couple of guys this year that did that. Actually, Charles Bediako is another one. He played over 80 games in the G League. He played for Alabama in 2023, was a great center, great player for them. And then, here we go. We'll see if I can... Yeah, and he came back and actually was ruled to play again for Alabama. And another player, the first guy to do this was Nagy, James Nagy. He was drafted 31st in 2023, and he retained eligibility because he didn't play in the NBA. But I think that the NCAA needs to change these rules up. This is a huge problem in college basketball when you've got guys that are professionals, just legitimate professional athletes playing in college basketball. And Nagy was shipped in NBA trades as well. You can see here he was in the Karl Anthony Towns trade with Detroit, he was in with the Knicks here, and Nagy, he was shipped away to the Knicks via Detroit in this big team trade, and he was originally drafted to Detroit as well. This is a big problem, not only for NBA guys. The NCAA is going to have to rule in some sort of law to shift this, but also for a lot of other international guys. There's guys here, consider this guy, Luka Bogovac, who played 55 games in Montenegro the past 2 seasons in the Adriatic League, and then cleared to compete by the NCAA as a college athlete. And keep in mind, this guy has played professional basketball, gotten paid for professional basketball, and is not degree seeking, and he's just going to come back and play college basketball in college. And to me, there's certainly an argument on one side to be made. All right, they're paying these athletes. A lot of these athletes aren't pursuing degrees in any capacity anyway, and they're just here to play. They're here to make a lot of money. But to me, I think there's an issue with this because there needs to be some sort of college in the basketball. There's now a lot of international guys that come in at 23. The other night, while I was commentating a game, Notre Dame played Virginia in a big double overtime loss. But Virginia had 2 guys that had played professionally. Their best freshman, quote unquote, he's 23 years old. And let me see if I can get this into frame here. He played 20 minutes a game, basically the past 2 seasons in Spain, and then came over to play for Virginia as a 23-year-old freshman this year, and he's tearing up college basketball. He's averaging 15 points a game. And to me, there's a problem in this. Colleges and coaches, it's less about recruits coming in, and it's more about who's going to give you the best chance to compete by poaching guys out of the G League, poaching guys internationally, all the above. And I think there has to be some element of college or some element of amateur as well, or else we're going to devolve into a big mess. And different than football, guys only need to spend 1 year in college before they can go to the draft. They just have to be, I think it's just 1 year playing in college before they can enter. But all these guys overseas can just enter straight as an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old or whatever, whenever they see fit. So there's kind of a disconnect here in terms of NBA rules. And this weekend as well, Florida trounced Alabama, talking trash to them about the players that they've gotten, especially, I think, Bediako here, who was the player, of course, that was played in the NBA and then came back. And maybe it doesn't matter on the court. Now, Florida has plenty of international guys as well on their team, especially some of those big men. Maybe it doesn't actually contribute to winning, but there needs to be some sort of principle in all of this. And different than college football, where guys are coming out of the U.S. and recruiting still matters, this is a free-for-all across the world of paying guys, and basically it just becomes another amateur league for the NBA. And I don't think that college basketball wants to do that. But the issue is there's no rules right now. We don't have any guidelines in place. We don't have really anything about changing the system. There's nothing about that right now. It's all about the product. And if the product is good, right now we've got a lot of great freshmen and plenty of good international players, plenty of great college basketball. Basketball is great for a lot of the big programs. So if that is good, then people are happy. And that is not necessarily the best future that we can have for college basketball. Something needs to change. And whether or not you start by saying, all right, if you've played in the G League, no go. That's a starting point. I think the next thing is addressing, all right, you've played in these sorts of professional leagues before. If you remember back in the early 2000s, guys like Luka and Porzingis, they played overseas and then they got drafted. LaMelo Ball, he took an amateur contract in high school. He played in some sort of league, and college basketball wasn't allowed to take him back when the NCAA was a lot stricter on these things. And so he played in the Australian NBL. But now guys are coming over from those leagues and just straight playing college basketball. And I think that is wrong. At a certain point, college basketball is not supposed to be a professional league where 18 to 23-year-old guys can play. It's supposed to be college first and then the basketball piece. And I know, of course, that is shifted with NIL. Guys go as kind of a developmental year and so forth. But the colleges themselves have to be able to have some say in this. And in terms of just keeping it fair and equitable for all, we should not have professional players from leagues that pay their players that play at a high level to come in and to college basketball. I think there should be a cutoff for age. If guys want to come and play in the U.S. before they go to the NBA or so forth, they should have to be under 20 years old, for example, under 19 years old. And that there should be some sort of requirement, because right now things are devolving and it's only going to get worse if we just allow 2 G League players this year. How about 5? How about 10? It's just going to get more and more and more. And somebody's going to have to shut this down. So it might have to be the commissioners of the conferences. It might have to be the coaches forming together. There's no players' unions. There's no official contracts. It's chaos. And we're in the middle of a great college basketball season. Don't get me wrong. We're going to have more content coming out about the season itself. But this overarching stuff with amateurism is a big problem, and something needs to change.